Welcome everyone to this All Questions Answered event presented to you by the Confederation of Laboratories for AI Research in Europe, CLAIR. It's fantastic to have you all here live with us, or if you're watching this later on YouTube, great that you stopped by and that you're taking an interest here in CLAIR. So this format is a little bit of an unusual thing, so let me briefly explain. But first of all, I'm Holger, the chair of the board of CLAIR, also working at Aachen University in Germany, where I have a chair on the methodology of artificial intelligence, and affiliated also with with Leiden University in the Netherlands, where I have a chair for machine learning. This AQuA event is intending to give those of you who have questions about CLAIR a chance to ask them and have them answered by a panel of people who are quite intimately involved in what we do at CLAIR. Of course, CLAIR is many, many more people. So today we have a panel of 6. In fact, one panel member is still on her way in here. There were some technical difficulties, but she will be here shortly. And the panel sort of nicely represents a broad set of activities and skills and also personalities that we have in this wonderful organization. So the idea is that you ask your questions via the Q&A or chat, or if you're watching this on YouTube, via YouTube. And our staff working tirelessly behind the scenes will organize these questions a little bit and bring them to the panel, and we will then answer them. And we will do that for an hour. And during that hour, you hopefully learn a few more things about CLAIR. Now, in the beginning, we already had this wonderful video, also put together by our very talented staff, sort of taking you quickly through a few things that happened in 22 and a few things that we're planning for 23. But of course, there are many, many more things, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it in the coming 56 minutes. With that said, we'll briefly introduce ourselves. I already said something, so perhaps next, Philipp, you briefly introduce yourself.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Philipp Slusallek. I'm a professor for computer graphics actually at Saarland University. And I'm also a scientific director at the German Research Center for Artificial Intelligence, also here on the Saarbrücken campus. And I'm one of the members of the board of directors of CLAIR, have been one of the co-founders, and I'm mostly responsible for the strategy aspects within CLAIR. We kind of subdivide that among each of us. And with that, I hand over to Emanuela.
Hi everybody, I'm Emanuela Girardi, I'm from Italy. I'm part of the extended core team of CLAIR, and I'm involved in several AI initiatives in Europe. I am a board member of ADRA, the AI Data and Robotics Association in Europe, and I was part of one of the team who brought the National AI Italian Strategy. And I'm the founder of POP-AI, Popular Artificial Intelligence. Well, I think this is enough for me, so I will give the word to Marie.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Anastacio. I'm a finishing PhD, starting postdoc between Leiden University and Aachen University. And I'm one of the co-founder of the Rising Researcher Network, that is the CLAIR network for PhD and postdocs and the junior researchers. And I will give the mic to Morten.
Well, hello, my name is Morten Irgens. I'm one of the co-founder of CLAIR. Yes, I'm on the board of CLAIR, and I'm also, as well, one of the co-founders of ADRA, the AI Data and Robotics Association, and sitting on the board there. And the same for NORA, which is the Norwegian equivalent of CLAIR, the Norwegian AI Research Consortium. So in my day-to-day life, I'm a vice president or pro-rector or vice-rector, whatever it's called, at Christiania here in Oslo, Norway. And I'm also founder of an AI company in Canada. So a little bit of different angles and experiences and competencies from the interesting field of AI. Thank you.
And by now, Anna has joined us, which is great. Wonderful that you could make it too. So maybe, Anna, you go last, but certainly not least.
Okay. Hi, hello. I'm Anna Paiva. I'm a professor of AI at University of Lisbon, IST, Instituto Superior Técnico, and a senior researcher at INESC-ID in Lisbon. I'm also in the board of EuroAI, and I'm a fellow of the Radcliffe Institute at Harvard and other positions. And I'm part of the extended core team of Claire, and I'm really happy to be here.
Great. Wonderful to have you all here. Thank you very much for taking time out of your very busy schedules today. Let's see what we have in terms of questions that people would like to have answered. So I'm waiting a second here for our comm staff in the background to give us the first question. And here's the first question. Where are we with the idea of a CERN for AI? Is Claire still pursuing this? Is there any hope it will actually happen? That's a good question. This CERN for AI idea is actually one of the key things that Claire got started with, right, in 2018, long time ago now. We're going into our fifth, well, we're well in our fifth year now. So this is a great question. And I'm wondering whether, Philipp, perhaps you would like to get started with that one.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So, yes, I think there is a lot of discussion that has always been around that question. I was a member of the high-level expert group where we already kind of pushed for that idea. There was long discussions there. The commission has kind of picked it up under the term of lighthouse for AI, but then made the twist that the idea of this one lighthouse now has for the commission has become this distributed lighthouse, which of course is not what the original idea was, right? Where we wanted to have this one highly visible European center. But there is, the topic is coming up repeatedly all over the place. There's also talk about a possible joint undertaking, which are one of these really big European projects, maybe in the next work the next funding period. So the idea is certainly still alive. It's something that will take time. But yeah, we're still pushing for that, and I think there certainly is the opportunity for that, but we need to push. We need to keep pushing for that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, this is probably one of these things that just take time, right? I mean, the CERN itself actually wasn't built overnight either, and it wasn't funded overnight in particular. I remember very well a few years ago, a couple of years ago now, we talked to somebody very high up in the CERN hierarchy about how this actually got started way back when, decades ago now. And what he said, I remember it very vividly, is you're going to need a lot of stamina and patience to pull something like this off, right? Because it is big. Also because of, you know, this question of where do you build something like this that always pops up. Of course, that pops up in different contexts as well, like did for the European Central Bank, did for many other European institutions, has been somehow resolved for all of these for the better in most cases, I would say. So no reason to suspect that here this question is intractable, but it's politically sensitive, it's difficult. I'm curious, actually there is another question. So why don't we go to this, and then maybe later there is an opportunity to talk a little bit more about the CERN for AI idea, which certainly is interesting always. We get that question a lot actually. So here the next question is, Claire's main purpose is to contribute to strengthening AI in Europe. In which way is it going? has Europe gathered speed relative to, say, the US and China? So who would like to comment on this one? Anna, do you want to go first on it?
Yeah. Actually, I would like to link it to the CERN question, because indeed, I think Europe hasn't gained speed. That's my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, and I think it's to do with the fact that we are scattered still. We are doing parallel work rather than combining efforts in a way that we are all working together. And I think something like a CERN infrastructure and organization that would put people collaborating would be a way for Europe to actually pick up speed and improve. So I don't think we are. I think Claire is trying to help. And I think many are trying to help. But the mechanisms that we have at the moment are not the appropriate ones to really improve. I think we are, again, trying to replicate. We scattered around. It's not working in the way that it should be working. So yeah, that's my answer. Maybe you disagree.
I can follow up on that. Anna, to that question, Europe is full of excellent scientists and great research labs.
Absolutely.
And yes, and the potential is absurdly great. But there is I also often say there is sand in the machinery, because Europe as a whole is also science and the research labs in this area feed in or collaborate in a larger machine, an ecosystem, where in the end we also would like to see companies, innovations, products coming out. And the reality there is that we are even much worse off than we were 5 years ago. This is a reality. It's going in the wrong direction in that sense. Europe has some fabulous, interesting and great companies, interesting startups doing the right things. We are better at establishing startups than scaling them up and we don't have that innovation funding and the innovation maybe drive that some of our regional competitors obviously have. So on the innovation industry side, it's not going in the right direction, and the reasons you pointed at them, Anna, they are very, very important. There is a lot of talk, but on the way from the top level in the Commission or in a government in a European country or whatnot, and down to the instruments to execute this, something disappears. And what I said no was the public side, and the private side is that Europe has a lot of well-established companies, but not to the same degree. They're able to fund and generate and lift up to the scale the disruptive projects, the disruptive startups, large companies that are drivers and locomotives in Europe. They might not want to disrupt their own markets. So we also need to really feed up the small disruptors. And for that, there isn't enough willingness to fund up or willingness to put in the right instruments to make that happen.
So Morten, that's a great bridge to the next question. But before we go there, I'd like to give the word to Marie for a moment, because, you know, Marie, over these 5 years that we're talking about now in terms of, you know, has Europe been able to close the gap? If I remember correctly, that happens to be the time that you've been working on your PhD in AI, right? And so I wonder, I mean, you represent sort of, you know, the rising researchers here today on the panel. You play a lead role in the Rising Researchers Network, which has brought together hundreds of Europe's most talented young researchers in AI, right? I'm curious, how do you and people in your network see this? Are you concerned that, you know, the gap is increasing between AI capabilities elsewhere, that in Europe we don't quite have the chances? Or do you think it's actually something that maybe only the more established folks, like the ones that have been talking now, including me, are worried about, and you guys think that the future for Europe is bright if we just keep going the way we're currently going? What do you think?
So keep going the way we're going. I don't think that is a good idea, but I'm not sure I would be as pessimistic as Morten and Anna. I can say that as a PhD student, I received quite a few offers from small companies doing AI in Europe in the last 5 years, after publishing papers or something, and then they sent offers to start working with them on various subjects. Like, I'm thinking about one in particular that was about applying AI to health things, and that came from the UK. So I'm not that pessimistic. I also feel like, well, reading the news, I'm not completely sure that China is going in the right direction when it comes to their big companies right now, because there are a lot of things happening in there. There are a lot of things happening in the US without going into details. Maybe we're slow in the takeoff, but I feel like we have more stability in what we're doing in Europe. So yeah, I'm hopeful for the future. I'm not sure that now we're in the best place, but I think we're in the right direction. And I definitely think that Claire and all those initiatives to try to work together are helping us go in the right direction.
Well, that's good to hear. I think we could have a very long back and forth discussion now about this question. What I suggest, because I know there are other questions that somehow are also related to this. Let's go through a few other questions, and of course we can come back to this, because I think there is, of course, much more to be said about it. What I find interesting is that Marie is sort of pretty optimistic here. Actually, Morten was too, right? He's the one that said, and I very much agree with that we have sort of great working material here in Europe, and we have great cultural values on which to build the whole thing. And we have wonderful, wonderful talent, right? But I would think something appears to be missing, right? And maybe what is missing, at least according to Morten, is this link between, you know, industry and academia, at least as part of it, right? That could be stronger or better or different. And indeed, there is a question. Let me just see that I find it again. How does Claire help bridging the gap between research and industry? And I think this is maybe a good question to address. So I'm wondering who would like to take a stab at this. Emanuela, do you want to take it perhaps?
Yeah, sure. Perfect. Yes. So of course, I mean, Claire is not only the largest AI communities of scientists and researchers, but what we are trying to build, and we started a couple of years ago already, we are building an innovation network, and we're doing this for European industry so that they can, I mean, we can push the uptake of AI for industry in Europe. So we started building this network, and it's a great opportunity for companies to join this network. We already have several companies, and they can have access to these AI communities. They can there are several initiatives that we are developing where industry can meet with our researchers. For instance, last year we developed several team development workshops. One was in health, and the other one was in bias, mitigating bias and disinformation with AI. Then we developed one in the automotive fields. We have one that actually is coming in the next week about energy and sustainability. So what we are trying to do is really to bring together industry on one side side, so the industry, and the researcher on the other side, and to have them working together, sharing the new technology, the new initiatives that are being developed in Europe. And we think that this creating this environment where there is the opportunity of really contaminating each other is really the way to develop some new AI technologies that are like forged, like Morten said, European values. And this is especially important for Europe because we have, most of European companies are SMEs, and we really need to find a way to reach these SMEs to make sure that they can benefit, from AI technologies. And so creating these opportunities for meeting up is really what we are trying to do. And then, of course, we are developing several other initiatives with our innovation network, so you can find additional information in our website.
Thank you, Emanuela. Morten, I think you want to add something there.
Yes, no? I would like to add something because it's fabulous what Emanuela is saying here. As you said, we have to get the communities to contaminate each other. I haven't heard that expression, but that's great. CLARE is the sum of its members, and CLARE provides, in a sense, an opportunity to really, it's a springboard for getting things done that you can just imagine or dream about. Now, as a company, looking at CLARE today, look at the science side of CLARE. CLARE has 4,000 technologists and researchers in AI who are supporting CLARE. We have 450 research labs, research groups, research institutes in AI that are members. Now, that is an opportunity for companies of all sizes to use as a springboard to get either to help us to influence, let's say, the Commission or the European Union to go in a more in a direction we would like to see, or to get in touch with scientists or other companies that they would like to develop collaborations with, etc., etc. Now, there's a limit to what CLARE can do, to do top down, but the opportunities that lies in this network is almost endless if you go in and think, I'm going to use this for something, I'm going to do this. So we invite everybody to join, and we particularly now we like to see both large and small and startup companies to join our innovation network and think about the opportunities that we can create together.
Yeah, maybe let me add a few tiny things. I mean, the one part I think we should point out is that the Rising Researcher Network with Marie here, it certainly makes CLARE even more interesting for industry, right? Because this is how we can bring the young talents together who will be looking for jobs with the needs of the European industry. Also, we should point out that CLARE has 9 national offices now all over Europe, and they, within their countries and often also the neighboring countries, or they even work together, they do quite a number of events and engage with industry there. So we also have this not just on the European level, but also in the individual regions. And maybe one more thing to point out is our very close collaboration. We have monthly meetings with EU robotics, which obviously robotics is a really important topic in Europe, and there's many important companies and research groups involved there. So that is also going really well. And now there's the EU Robin Excellence Network on the European level in that area as well. So I think there's a lot of stuff brewing that I think is a great step forward for Europe.
Great, thanks everyone.
Oh yeah, and one should mention maybe one thing, since I've just been talking, there is the green membership, right? So industry, it used to be for the industry and network, you have to pay, and yes, if you pay, there's additional benefits, but industry can actually now join for free, just be involved and be part of the CLARE community that way, which I think is a great opportunity. And not everyone knows about this yet. Absolutely.
Thanks for mentioning it, Philipp. So I think we have quite a few additional questions here. So one that is related that I'd like to go next is, can or should Europe try to compete with Silicon Valley? I think that connects a little bit to something that both Anna and Morten have alluded to, right? We, of course, tend to look at Silicon Valley as the success model in anything related to information and communications technology, and certainly in AI, right? Is that what Europe should try to replicate? And I wonder, Anna, do you want to go on this first?
Yeah, I'll go. Well, I don't think Europe should replicate, because Europe has the advantage of having a multicultural, it's more diverse, it's different. The social aspects of our lives are more important. The social structure is different. So I think Europe should reinvent the way to create companies and to create wealth using AI that is more impactful in the sense of for the social good, for to improve the lives of people. So I'm not sure that replicating what Silicon Valley is doing would be the right way to go. And I think Emanuela has mentioned, or no, Marie was saying that, well, she's optimistic about Europe. And I think one of the reasons why we should be optimistic about Europe is because our social structure, the way we live, is very good. So AI should take advantage on that, from that, and improve quality of life, looking at sustainable development goals, trying to improve the life of citizens. And I think, that is a bit different than just making money. So yeah, I think maybe not.
I think I can add to that. So we can interpret that question in many ways. Should Europe replicate Silicon Valley? But I think one way of understanding this is, should we generate companies and wealth in the same way? The Europe has, over the last many years, gone down in ability to develop new companies and be successful generally. And AI is a key technology moving forward. And if we are not able to do that, to make use and turn our deep knowledge and broad knowledge in AI into products and services, we will also stop being able to finance our welfare societies. I mean, we need to create that income, and we need to be a part of this development, because technology defines a reality. So we would like to define our own reality. We need to develop our own technology here. So the one answer to that is yes, we should replicate, but not fully. We should be as good at creating new companies that create good products for European citizens, for the best for the future of Europe. And in order to do that, we must get better at funding up these type of companies. And what we talked about earlier, we said that we have all the ingredients. It's a machine. We have all the bits and pieces, but there is sand in the machine. And having a machine with sand in it, it's so much better than not having a machine at all. So this we can solve. It's possible.
Great. Thank you very much, Morten. I'd like to move on actually to the next question now, because we have quite a few questions from the audience here. Can you please briefly outline and justify CLAIRE's current membership structure individual members, industry members, organizations, gold members, green members, and so on. What kind of new members is CLAIR particularly targeting at the moment? Do you want to encourage more computer science department to join? What are the incentives, right? That's a great question. We also get this a fair bit and a great opportunity to comment on this. So maybe I'll make the start and then we add bits and pieces, right? So CLAIR has 3 networks that are deeply interconnected. And you can also find this on the CLAIR website. There's the research network, which consists not of individual researchers, but of research groups and organizations. They range in size from rather small ones, basically one chair at a university with, a bunch of PhD students, and then, maybe a second chair that works on a related area. That's sort of close to the smallest unit that we have, all the way to really big research organizations such as INRIA or DFKI, which have thousands of AI researchers working for them full-time, and support staff in addition, right? So they come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes and really represent well also the richness of the European ecosystem. That's on the research side. Then we have our innovation network, and I'll invite in just a moment, perhaps Emanuela, to briefly talk about that, although many others could do too. But before we go there, I think it's important to talk about the Rising Researchers Network, because that in some sense is sort of the future of the research network and indeed the future of AI in Europe, right? And Marie, you are supremely qualified to briefly talk about this. This is a different kind of network from the research network, right? Maybe you can highlight some of the differences and some of the advantages of being in there, because you guys have been doing great in growing this over the last 12 months or so. And I know that you are looking for more members, as of course does the research network as well, but that is already very large, and we welcome new members there. But this currently is sort of more on a phase where it's almost saturated across all of Europe, right? We've been spectacularly successful there. The Rising Researchers Network is a new initiative that's still growing very fast. Marie, tell us more about this.
Yeah, so the Rising Researcher Network is really a network of people, and just people, young starting researchers. And the idea is really to create some feeling of being all together and working together toward the goal. Well, that would be at least the way I see it. I'm not sure the other kernel members would define it the same way. And in that case, we're really looking for PhD postdocs or master students who are interested in continuing in research, and trying to create an environment in which they can get some support. So, for example, we're now starting a thesis writing support group where a group of people just meet regularly to write their PhD thesis together and give a bit of incentive to continue. And we're also trying to give more visibility to starting researchers, because this is something that we really need if we want to stay in research. By doing so, we have a paper highlights that we will soon announce the paper highlights from last year. We have online talks that are put on YouTube. We're so trying to give visibility to the research done by the young researchers. That is a lot of research, because most of it, I would say that most of the research is done by PhD students and postdocs. And also trying to offer scholarships to go to summer schools, organizing our own events and things like this. So really trying to create a feeling of being part of this big family of researchers in Europe in AI, and hopefully this can help us in the future and the whole European research environment.
Great, thank you very much, Marie. And of course, being part of that network is completely free, right? And it's particularly attractive for PhD candidates and the master students and postdocs you mentioned, whose groups are not yet part of the CLAIR research network. Because, sometimes as a PhD student to get your entire group to join Claire as, in the research network, that can be a little bit of an effort. So there, the bar is much, much lower in the Rising Researchers Network. But of course, also for those who are already in the research network, there are additional activities and sort of just more peer-to-peer interaction that this network enables. So maybe over to you, Emanuela, and a little bit about the two levels of membership in our innovation network and the kind of advantages of being part of that.
Yes, so in order to foster the development of our innovation network, we divided the membership into two categories. So we have the gold medals, the gold members. The gold members, they pay a fee and they have access to, full voting access, full voting rights in the General Assembly of Clare. And then they have access to some value-added services that we are developing within the innovation network. And then we decided also to have a category that was for free. So it's the green members. And this is basically, it's open to all the industry and all industry members of any sizes. And they can participate in most of the initiatives of Clare. And the idea is really, like Marie said, to be part of this family, to be part of this community where they can benefit of most of the advantages of being part of this community. And there are very few, I would say, services that are not available for them, and they cannot vote in the General Assembly. So this is the idea, to create this industry community that it's really, talking all the time with the research community. There are lots of exchanges and there are lots of initiatives going on. So we really welcome new members to become part of this industry family.
And of course, one of the great advantages of being part of that industry family is access to the research network and access to the Rising Researchers Network, right? So one of the things that we are planning to do and have done, for instance, in the form of the previously mentioned theme development workshops, is to strategically bring together researchers from the research network and people from the innovation network in order to talk about challenges, possible solutions, or best practices indeed, right? It is no longer the case that we have this linear flow of innovation that, at the universities, people have great ideas and then they spin off companies or they inject them into companies. It's much more complex and much richer than this nowadays. But still, the key is to have these different people be in close contact with each other. And that's particularly important when it comes to the young researchers, many of whom, of course, end up doing great work in industry that is then changing our world and our lives, right? And so helping to knit these connections to enable these people to meet each other and, for instance, to enable industry to convince young researchers to stay in Europe rather than go, for instance, to North America and have their fantastic industry careers there. That is something that Claire is very seriously invested into. Perhaps finally, a few more words on the research network. And I wonder, Philipp, do you want to very briefly talk about the gold membership and the green membership on the research network? That's also something relatively new. So maybe you can sketch this out for us.
Yes, so the research network always has been free, because universities typically don't have that much funding. That we decided, and they contribute a lot and make the network interesting. So we, from the beginning, that was free, and was a big success. You've heard the number. Many hundreds of groups have joined. And that's the green membership. And we were actually then approached, and to some degree we were a little bit surprised, but very positively surprised, that some of the organization actually said, well, actually, we want to support Claire. And so we actually have that additional layer now, membership layer of the gold membership in the research network, where some of our members, increasingly more, have actually decided and are sponsoring Claire through a membership. By the way, another reason for that is that if they also want to join ADRA, they do get a reduction by being a member of both organizations, and paying member of both organizations. So I think that's great, and we really appreciate the support that we're getting from our gold members, and of course they get exposure and also we talk to them, and they're typically organizations that support Claire already, but more are joining too. Maybe one sentence regarding the previous topic here. I think one thing that in particular we see at DFKI is that there is much more interaction between research and industry than there was many years ago, or even a few years ago. At DFKI, we have this concept of transfer labs, right, where really industry joins us in a lab. People from industry are joining us for collaborate. They are funding actually basic research in areas that wasn't even an idea back then. It was simply impossible. It used to be we do our research for 2 or 3 years until the PhD is done, and then we hand it over to industry. This is changing, not everywhere, but a lot of industry are picking up that they have to engage early because AI is moving so fast, and we definitely see this also here in Claire.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned this, Philipp, because I happen to know that in the Netherlands, there is a program like that as well, actually at the national level there, that's quite successful. So I think this is an idea that's springing up in various places. And, you know, personally, I feel one of the great things of having an organization like Claire is that, you know, of course, we should encourage as Europeans, everybody to come up with their own ideas, and that will mean that some ideas will spring up in multiple places or very closely related ideas. But then the next thing is to bring these people together as quickly as possible so that they can exchange their ideas, but also their insights and their experiences with what works best and what doesn't work so well, right? We all know, not only in research, but also in industry and in the way we run organizations, it's not so hard to have great ideas, actually, but what is really hard is to make sure that the great ideas really work in a great way. And that is often a painful process that can be greatly accelerated by being able to talk to some people who've been going through similar experiences, right? And so this exchange of experiences and best practices across the diversity that there is in Europe in the area of AI, that is something that Claire very much aims to enable, of course, right? And it's doing this through these 3 networks: the research network, the innovation network, and the rising researchers network. But then, of course, there is also an opportunity for people who are not really into AI research and innovation, but are interested in the space and have, for instance, strong feelings that Europe needs to have a stake in that space, right? Or are interested in the societal implications without any expertise in AI. And they too can actually benefit from Claire and support Claire. They can become supporters. And we have literally thousands of supporters across all of the European Union and affiliate countries such as Switzerland, the UK, Norway, Iceland, and so on. And of course, you know, it's always nice to have more supporters that just support us with their name, right? Now, of course, if anybody also wants to put some resources in, that's even better. And the resources then don't have to be financial. They can also be in-kind resources, volunteer work. So we increasingly have people who actually volunteer also to do work for our offices, and it would be great to have even more of those. So we do have a few more questions here from the audience, and it's kind of difficult to decide which one to pick first, but let's go with the one that has been on the stack for a little bit longer, and that is, what is Claire's take on AI ethics, and what are our concrete activities, and what do we want to do here in Claire in the coming years on this topic? I think that's a great question, because one of the distinguishing features of the European approach to AI, not only in the mind of the Commission, but also in the mind of, you know, many of the member state governments and in the mind of the general public, is that what we want to do differently, perhaps from other places in the world that are great in AI, is we want to do AI with a sharp eye on responsible use, right? Ethical use that benefits society as a whole, and not just a few stakeholders who happen to be invested in the right kind of companies or industries, right? And so I wonder who would like to start commenting on this. Maybe Anna, you want to make a start on this?
In fact, it follows from what I said before about the fact that Europe is different in that respect. And I think Claire, right from the beginning, was very active in supporting the Commission in the AI Act. we produced several documents with contributions from many of our members. We have an informal advisory group on AI ethics that really is trying to make the link with the Commission and with the topics of fairness, trustworthiness, and aspects of responsible AI in general. And I think we are placed in a very well to promote a different kind of AI in Europe. And the activities so far have been more in giving feedback to the Commission and doing some events, but we are hopefully in the future will have more activities coordinated by this informal advisory group of CLAIRE on this particular aspect of AI ethics. But maybe you have, Holger, you have more to say on that, because you were more connected with the Commission on the AI Act.
Yeah, well, I think several of us were. I think Emanuela also gave a lot of impact. Some of us are working also in the context of ADRA, of course. But you know, I think you summarized most of it very nicely, Anna. What I would say is that you know, this is a topic that the Commission already deeply cares about. And I think what they need is guidance from people who have technical insight, in particular, on striking the right balance between protecting citizens and ensuring that, you know, there is societal benefit on the one hand side, but on the other hand, we don't want to stifle innovation. We don't want to create barriers that then means that that then imply that Europe falls behind on the core technology, right? And that is not an easy balance to strike. And the Commission most definitely needs expert help and advice. And CLAIRE has been providing that and continues to provide that. At the same time, you know, AI ethics is a topic, of course, that where people from the social sciences and obviously from ethics and philosophy have a lot to contribute, even those that from these communities that don't have a strong background in AI, right? And facilitating that dialogue is something that also CLAIRE is very seriously committed to, and that we have been very active in, and that we plan to stay very actively involved in. One thing that I think would be nice, I'm looking at Marie now and encourage her to invite her to maybe add on to this as well. I think it would be wonderful to see ultimately in the Rising Researchers Network also rising researchers that have a non-technical background and have interaction at that level. Marie, are there already people like that in your network, or are you still looking for them? Or is it that you guys are just a whole bunch of nerds that would rather stay a group of nerds?
So I know that we have at least one person working on the ethical, ethic AI. I didn't talk enough with her to be able to say exactly what she's doing, but we had some exchange because she was wondering if she was welcome in the Rising Researcher Network as someone who was not doing technical research, but really more about the society impacts of technology and things like this. And sure, we said she was. So we have people. I'm not sure how to get them involved more in what we're doing, but they are here. And there is always the question of how to create the interaction between the more technical people and the more ethic and social science people.
And often the first step is, of course, to get them into the same room, real room or virtual room as it might be, right? And it seems that you're succeeding with that already and that you're open to having more of that. Is that right? Excellent. Good. You know, I've heard somebody say around the time that the European Commission had the high-level expert group, which you know, I'm not sure whether it formally still exists, actually. I think it might have completed its job, so to speak, yes. Right? And I think around the time that they were very, very active in providing advice, I know that some people have gone out and said, you know, maybe what we need is one AI ethicist for every AI technical person. Now, Philipp, you were in the high-level expert group at this point. Do you think this is a reasonable balance? One ethicist for every technical AI person in Europe? Is that the way we should go in Europe?
I don't think so, but we definitely need their input. And I must say, even though they were certainly in the minority in the high-level expert group, they actually had a very strong impact, and they very much made sure that they are heard. And this was really important. I mean, I don't mean this negatively, actually the opposite. This was I mean, it wasn't an easy discussion there, but because, I mean, we come from different backgrounds, but this is exactly the type of discussion that we need to have, and we are having in CLAIRE and in various settings. So I think we should really have more of that, and so I really like it that the Rising Researcher Network is active in that area as well. And I think really getting those young people work and talk to each other more, excellent.
Yeah, and of course also, it's like you say, Philipp, these discussions tend to be not easy. The ones that I've been involved in also weren't always easy. But we don't do things in CLAIRE or in AI because they're easy.
Yeah.
We do them because they're worth doing, right? And if they turn out to be hard, we rise to the challenge, right? And so great to see that our rising researchers are also rising to that particular challenge, because I think this is one of the areas, if you start early talking to people from different disciplines, then you have a better chance to also get further with it than if you start very late. But having said that, I personally think that at any level of seniority, it's always very rewarding, at least that's my personal experience, talking to people from the other side of what's sometimes portrayed as a divide between the social sciences and the natural sciences. I think that divide is often not nearly as wide as people feel once you start talking and exploring areas of common interest. And AI, I think, actually is rife with these areas of common interest where one can have really interesting conversations across that line. Good. We have a couple more questions. Now we have to start managing our time carefully. I'd like to pick this one next here, ADRA. It has been mentioned before, of course, by several panelists, actually. And the question is, CLAIRE is one of the founders of ADRA. Why did you put effort into this? So that's a good question. So first of all, it would be interesting to hear from those people who are putting effort into it, which I think here on this panel are primarily Emanuela and Morten. Have you been putting, was this or is this a lot of work for you? And if so, why do you do it? I mean, are you being paid for it? What's the reason why you are actually doing this? Is the commission putting resources that make it attractive, or what is the real motivation? So perhaps we're going to go with Emanuela first and then Morten.
Okay, first go. So ADRA, I think ADRA is a fantastic opportunity for Europe. So before we have been asked what we think about the current situation of Europe towards China and US. So we're really lagging, and I think that there is no more time at the moment, because I mean we really need to push now on the development of AI. And what the European Commission is doing, I mean, promoting the PPP, the new PPP on AI, data and robotics with ADRA, is really to push the development of this European ecosystem on AI, data and robotics. And they are investing about, I mean, the total amount of 2.6 billion euro in the next few years, which, I mean, if we look at what is they are investing in China and US, probably it's not lots of money, but then, I mean, it's still some money, and we really need to make sure that this money are well invested and that they have an impact. And what we are doing now in ADRA, we are creating this European ecosystem. We bring together all the different stakeholders, from research to industry to the policy, the governments, in these three areas of AI, data, and robotics. And I mean, we think, especially here in CLAIRE, we think that since AI is a general purpose technology, is probably the main driver of this partnership. So we really need to do, I mean, everything that is possible to make sure that we're building this ecosystem of innovation in Europe, because otherwise it will be too late. We will find ourselves with technologies that are developed somewhere else and they're not aligned with the European values, like we say, so that transforms human-centric AI. So I really think that it really takes a lot of effort, I mean, from all of us, but we really need to push, and we really need to push the Commission to keep on investing this and trying to really, how can I say? Create at least a CERN for AI where we can bring all these technologies together and we can really, see the success and the leadership of AI data robotics in Europe.
Yeah, so I'll pick up on that. So yes, ADRA is the AI Data Robotics Association. It's a bit different than CLARE. It is only AI, but the point here is that the Commission has an instrument which is a public-private partnership thing. So they needed to establish an association, a new association that would collect the interest in AI data and robotics. Now, of course, CLARE is a strong actor here. So we said, okay, we'll participate and help with doing that. But ADRA has a very clear mandate on contributing or helping the Commission to shape the future calls in such a way to the best for the AI data and robotics associate or communities in Europe. And of course, then ADRA operates as an advisor in a sense. And of course, CLARE then is using ADRA as a channel to make sure that the work groups that are developing the advices to the Commission has a lot of very strong AI competence. So we are using this as a way of making sure that the Commission gets or that future calls are as best as possible for AI in Europe.
And the Commission does give some of these many billions that are rooted into that to you guys who are putting many hours into it, right? They pay you quite well for that, I understand.
Yeah, no, nothing. We are working in the evenings, and this is not. We're sitting on the board.
Morten, you're telling our viewers here that the people that are putting a lot of their time into this key instrument, they're doing it on their evenings and weekends.
Yeah,
is that right?
That's true. The reality here
so
is
maybe
that
somebody in the Commission should revisit this, because not that volunteers can't do great work, they do in CLARE all the time. But if the Commission is serious about this, I think they should sort of really make sure that this is rewarded appropriately. And of course, I'm not talking about the two of you. You're a sort of family here, right? But there are many other people who are putting tons of cycles into ADRA, right?
There is an inconsistency in AI being one of the most important strategic elements for the current Commission. And then you have an instrument that is put together, let's put it this way, with duct tape and basically voluntary work to execute or to execute on this vision, and that is an inconsistency. We can all agree on that.
It seems there is some room and maybe also some need for rethinking there. Maybe somebody from the Commission is watching this and can give it some thought. It's time to wrap up for us. Thanks everyone for the great questions and contributions. There is one more question which we won't have time to answer in depth, but I want to just take it very quickly. And that's about whether CLARE has plans for putting out great products such as ChatGPT. And the answer is CLARE as an organization is not in that kind of game, but the people working in CLARE, organized in CLARE, they're putting out great stuff all the time, for instance, via the networks of centers of excellence. This would be worth an entire AQuA, and we might have one. And then the question of ChatGPT is worth an entire AQuA as well, because that certainly is a bit of a game-changing idea, at least, and really should encourage us to think very hard and very intensely about how our world will change as these kind of systems become even better and more widely available. But that's for next time, because today our hour is up. There will be more AQuAs in the future. I hope those of you watching this on YouTube, either live or later, or that are with us here, have enjoyed this. Do join us again. We like the format, and I see smiling faces around here with my fellow panelists. So it appears that you liked it too. Thank you once again for your contributions, and see you at one of these future events. Bye-bye.
And sign up as a supporter. You will get all the emails about new events.
That's right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yes.